There are writers you admire. You read them, appreciate the craft, notice how well something is written, and then you move on. And then there are writers you return to, not because they're easier, not because they're more popular, but because something about them feels personal. You don't just read them, you sit with them. Their sentences don't feel distant. They feel like they're already close to something inside you. For me, it has always been writers like Virginia Woolf, Sylvia Plath, and Camilla Das. Not because I understand everything they write, in fact, sometimes I don't. But there's a kind of recognition that happens, a familiarity in a way they hold thoughts, the way they move through emotion without trying to simplify it. It feels less like reading and more like being in the presence of someone who already speaks a language you didn't know you knew. And that's what makes certain writers feel like companions, not teachers or guides, companions. Because they don't stand above you explaining something, they sit beside you, inside the same uncertainty. You begin to notice it in small ways, a sentence that feels like something you've thought before but never said out loud, a passage that lingers not because it's dramatic but because it's precise in a quiet way. And over time, you return to them, not always consciously. But when something in your life feels difficult to name, you find yourself reaching for the same voice again. Why does that happen? Part of it is emotional timing. You meet certain writers at a moment when you are already close to what they're writing about. But there's something else too. Some writers don't try to resolve experience, they stay inside it. They don't rush towards clarity, they allow confusion, contradiction, and incompleteness to exist on the page. And if that's how your own mind moves, you recognize it immediately. It feels like someone is writing with you, not just for you. That's why reading them feels different, less like consumption, more like quiet company. And this changes the way you write as well. When you sit down with your journal after reading someone like that, you don't feel the same pressure to make everything clear. You allow yourself to stay in the in between, to write things that don't fully resolve, to let a thought remain open. Because you've seen it done, and more importantly, you've felt what it's like to be understood in that space. So your writing becomes less about explaining yourself and more about staying close to what you actually feel. If you think about the writers you return to, you'll notice this pattern. They don't just write well, they write in a way that aligns with how you experience things. And that alignment creates trust. Not loudly, just enough that you keep coming back. So don't ask yourself who is the best writer. Ask instead, which writer feels like they're sitting next to me rather than speaking to me. You don't have to answer it immediately, but notice it. Then notice your pattern. And the next time you read something that stays with you, and when you sit down to write, see what changes when you carry that voice with you. Not to imitate it, but feel a little less alone in your own thoughts. Because sometimes the most meaningful relationship you have with the book isn't about the story. It's about the sense that someone, somewhere, has already found words for something you're still trying to understand. And stayed there long enough for you to find your way into it too.